Single men of Reddit, what made you definitely not want a second date with a woman you went out with? Part 2. First and only date with a girl I barely knew through some friends. I drove to her house. She got in my car and smelled like she had just taken a massive bad but forgot to wipe. I went to dinner. I barely ate. Made an excuse to end early, dropped her off and drove home with the windows down in the middle of winter. She smells so bad at dinner and beyond as well, too? Jeepers. Probably should just have said something. My girlfriend realized she smelled like a cat all day once because somehow while cleaning litter, some dropped into the cuff of her pant leg. She was mortified. She had spent the day flying from Guadalajara to Maine. This one girl told me she was giving me a chance because a mutual friend said I was nice. She was totally out of my league and we both knew it, but she insisted on acting like it was a favor to go out to dinner with her. If she's not actively happy about seeing me, I don't really want to see her either. Well, that's a big one for me. I realize that attraction can take time to build, but if they're not excited about date 1 and you get the feeling that you'd have to convince them to come on date 2, what's the point? I was 32. She was 25. She showed up to dinner high as a kite. Dropped the word CUNT several times loud enough for the people around us to hear. She then got loaded during dinner, ordered an expensive plate and barely touched it. She also told me I'm stupid for still buying books and childish for listening to music. She also insisted I had to take her out 2 to 3 times a week, minimum. It was also implied she'd be moving in with me in the near future. She was unemployed and living at home, which honestly didn't bother me. The whole jumping into the deep end did. 20 minutes into the date, I text my friend, "Oh no, it turns out she's awful." I love dinner with those kinds of gold diggers. It usually comes with a great story to tell my friends, and I take pleasure asking for separate bills. She showed up in a dirty white dress. Her hair looked like it had not been brushed in months. During dinner, she told me that she still lived at home, never wanted to get a job, and that she stole her dad's car while he was asleep to meet me at the restaurant. Then when she found out that I was divorced, she said, "You didn't work hard enough to save your marriage." I put down the chopsticks, went and paid and said, "Nice meeting you," and left. I would have done the same if I were in your shoes. That was an inconsiderate thing to say. Went out for coffee. She brought a bottle of vodka and kept topping up her cup. I politely asked her what the deal was and she said she liked to party. When it was time to go, she fell over and started screaming that I had to help her up. I did. Told her to wait right there and left. We meet up for a coffee and mid-afternoon sweet treat. All was going fairly well. Not great chemistry, but she seemed fairly interesting. Then she asked me what I thought was a great first date, maybe second in hindsight question. If you knew you were going to go to jail at some point in your future, what do you think it would be for? I thought for a while and said something like insider trading. What about you? I followed up. Without missing a beat, she said murder. Then named the person and reason for their murder. Then suggested if I ever saw their name on the news for being killed, I should just tell the police it was her. I thought, or hoped she was joking, but I don't think so. Finished my coffee, said thanks, and left. And she's the one who brought it up. Yeah, imagine forgetting to bring home ice cream when she's pregnant. You better be quick on your feet. On a lunch date with a very attractive woman who I shared a couple classes with, she mentioned that she was in the process of getting a divorce. She seemed to want to talk about it, so I indulged. When I asked why things were ending, she said, "He's been cheating on me." Well, that's heavy. How did you find out? Internet history. Pauses. Leans in and whispers, "He looks at porn." Oh, I know, I smiled. Is porn cheating? It's mental cheating, and my pastor says that's the worst kind. I tried to start dating after I found out my husband was cheating, actually cheating, and we were separated on our way to a divorce. Trust me, your date wouldn't have gone much better had the husband really been cheating. After a few early experiences with messing things up with perfectly ordinary guys, I realized that I really did need time. An FWB helped out with the intimate side of things, and it took me close to 3 years to feel like I wanted a real relationship again. 2 weeks ago, 3.5 years on from my marriage ending, a long-time friend asked me out. I'm happy with him and everything feels right. We're doing well together. I feel bad for all the guys having bad dates with recent divorcees, but it's honestly not the woman's fault either. They're in very vulnerable emotional states and are grasping around for something familiar. It can take a while to accept that the loss of a marriage needs to be processed and accepted. If a date is a year or 2 on from her divorce, then I think it's worth a shot. Just take things slowly. Sorry, I know that you didn't ask for advice about this. I wanted to make a comment since so many bad dates in this thread seem to involve recent divorces. She spent 30 minutes talking about her ex, who apparently sat on his ass at home during most of the 18 to 27 years playing Xbox while she was working 2 jobs and getting her pregnant twice. Then after she finished this speech, she spent 10 minutes telling me that she was now going to get a man who had a job and money and he was going to take care of her and her kids, etc., etc. I left after this part, having paid for the dinner and thinking many, many unpleasant thoughts. Back in my online dating days, I had a first message from someone on a dating site along the same lines, saying that she's had enough of that kind of person, that fun time was over, and it was time to settle down with someone more serious. My first thought was, oh, I'm fun time is over guy. How flattering. There wasn't a first date, obviously. We sat at a corner booth and she was sitting really close to me. We both ordered, and to start off she was hella rude to our server, like, I want a lemonade. No ice. Did you get that, sweetheart? I said, no ice. Don't screw it up. So that already a bit of a turn-off. And then when our food got in, she used like an entire squirt bottle of Heinz 57 ketchup on broccoli cheese casserole, and she was trying to whisper in my ear like, you're hot, let's fool around. But I could smell the ketchup and it made me want to actually vomit and die. We did not go out again. Lol, ketchup breath has now been added to my personal deal breaker list. Sorry you had to endure that. Wait, was it the ketchup or the 57 sauce? Went for a walk in the woods. She walked about 5 feet ahead of me the whole time. Would think maybe she was nervous walking alone in the woods with a guy she didn't know, but she's the one that suggested a walk. I don't know, it was weird. I enjoyed telling this story, but it has a happy ending. So my cousin got a very late start in the dating world. Like, he didn't have his first kiss till he was 28 late start. He loves cars. He had an Evo that he took out almost nightly to ride through a canyon nearby. Anyways, he joined eHarmony and started going on dates. He met this one woman for a coffee in the evening, and while it was supposed to be a quick, nice to meet you, let's surface level get to know each other and verify the pictures are real, he asked if she wanted to go for a ride in his car because she liked cars. Now she was picturing a quick spin around the block, but my socially inept cousin doesn't realize that. He thinks she wants to see how his baby performs and handles. So they drove away from civilization into a dark, secluded 2-lane canyon road. She tells him this isn't really what she pictured when she agreed to go for a ride. Numbskull thinks that means, you call this sports car handling? Ha! So he begins to unload on the road, speeding, drifting around turns, etc. At one point he looks over and she is visibly crying. He immediately stops the car and asks what's wrong, thinking he scared her with his driving. In a very small voice, she asks him to take her back to the coffee shop. He apologizes for scaring her and drives her back. When he gets home, he asks me, his closest female relative, what happened. I told him, you took a woman you just met into a dark, isolated area with no cell service for an hour-long drive and acted like a jackass in your car. Immediately he understands what he did wrong, calls her and apologizes profusely for being so dense and for scaring her. He told her he really enjoyed talking to her, but he completely understood if she didn't want to go out again. They tentatively text each other for the next 2 months and see other people, until he asks her to go out again. Eventually they got married and now have a 1-year-old. They really are perfect for each other. It's similar enough that their lifestyles and habits overlap, but different enough to keep life interesting. She was easy to talk to, had a bunch of common interests, an interesting personality and good stories to tell, but I just didn't feel any kind of romantic connection during the process. Friendly reminder that just because someone doesn't want a second date doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like you or that you smashed up somehow. I wish I'd had the presence of mind to tell her this. I don't mind dates where there isn't a connection or where we aren't attracted to each other. I've had great dates where we enjoy each other's company, but neither felt anything, and that was totally cool. It's tough to find someone that you mesh well with. However, if there is the tiniest bit of attraction, then I do always have a second date with these people, because I don't think a romantic connection necessarily happens upon first meeting for everyone. Things can build slowly. Worst first date I've had. This is all on the same date. She had pictures of her in her 20s on her profile, looked at least 40, but I decided to stick around so I wouldn't have stood her up. She whipped open a file that contained my background check, credit check, and started asking me questions like it was a job interview. I don't even know how she got all that info. I've always been paranoid about FB and didn't have any social media presence. Once I cleared the file folder stage, she started ranting about how she hated her job and all her friends and co-workers hated her because she worked in HR for a firm that she recently had to let a bunch of people and friends go. Bartender noticed that I was sweating bullets because I couldn't even get the words, "It was nice meeting you, I have to go," out. It comes over and asks if I want to close out the tab, even though I didn't have one and he knew it. She shooed him away before I could say anything. He came back 15 minutes later and this time I yelled at the top of my lungs, "Check! Yes, check, please!" He got me a dummy bill. I left a 20 and just walked out. No nice to meet you nothing. It has since become my favorite bar in the city.